He has played around with trying Priest, I think, at some point, but now he's landed on Demon Hunter. It seems like the Mage Rogue Warrior are what we see every single week from Tom. And the Warrior, even though I bring up every single time that it's pretty interesting that it includes athletic studies, it seems to get banned every single time. So I never really get to see the true strength of that card. But we're kicking it off with a Mage Mirror, the classic.
El Clasico, and che0nsu gets the good stuff here. Getting the 1-cost minion is obviously fantastic, and then Apprentice plus a whole bunch of nonsense to throw down. You basically just wait until Tom does anything, and then you punch him in the face.
Oh my gosh. He's got the eye emoji hand. But you know what? Tom's hand is not too bad either. He has, you know, Cram Session to give him stuff to do and build up the resources for the Apprentice Mana Cyclone combo. And crucially, he has the Giant, and che0nsu doesn't at the moment.
I really like che0nsu's choice to go for font over the mirror image right here. I think, oh my goodness. I think what he needs is ways to generate extra value off of this Apprentice, because he doesn't necessarily have the payoff quite yet in the form of Giant, Shenvala, or Mana Cyclone. So any minion or spell generation is a premium.
That's a spicy top deck for Tom. I would just drop that every single time here.
He's got Apprentice in hand, though. Like, whenever you have Apprentice in hand, you have to consider the saving Shenvala route and then popping off on turn 5.
But... Okay, if you were gonna save Shenvala, I would highly recommend playing Cram Session, at least to try and get more spells, because all you're missing with this hand is spells. Like, I was interested in Shenvala there because it already had 1 activation minimum on the next turn. And I was thinking that this looks like a hand where you would go for Shenvala on 3, pop off small, like do a small pop off on the next turn, and just follow up with Giant. It's very reasonable to say that that's not good enough in this matchup, but feels like a bit of an opportunity waste, in my opinion.
That's fair enough. And it does now mean that with the way it's going to work out, if Tom does decide to pop off going into che0nsu's turn 5, the Imprisoned Observer is going to awaken at the perfect moment to deal most of the damage to everything on his board, and then he can just mop up with whatever he has left over, as che0nsu is quite clearly, once again here, deliberately holding back until Tom does something. This is, I think, something that a lot of players miss with Tempo Mage, is that Apprentice Evocation is only extremely powerful when you have something to actually target with all your spells.
Right. And as you were saying, there's no refill of the value. There's the second evocation, yes, but you don't get to play that many spells with it after having used the Apprentice. So che0nsu is biding his time, very reasonably so, and he has the Giant himself. But it feels like one big Apprentice turn will be met with the other, so it definitely comes to mind that a player who can capitalize on their Giants will have the advantage, where Tom does naturally play Conjurer's Calling in his deck.
che0nsu taking the moment now to pop off, though. He had the very reasonable play of Cobalt Spellkin in hand, but he's just taken the opportunity to get his stuff down. He wants his Giant in play, quite clearly.
Interesting. We were hyping him up about the timing, but this line also has its merits. Of course, just 8-8 in play.
Yes.
Be very simplistic about it. Is very strong.
I think I like Deep Freeze.
He plays the Learn Draconic.
Yes.
Tiles. Funny because you kind of half wish you had something to spend Cone of Gold on.
Yeah.
But he's actually just using the other Evo as well. Wow.
Okay, I mean, now you can go Mirror Image and then Cone the Mirror Images if you want to spend the mana to get the 6/6 next turn.
I think you do. I mean, che0nsu's indicated his game plan is trying to go all in.
Yeah.
And get the board as wide as possible. So, I mean, it's worth noting though that even if you do go the Cone of Cold on the O2s, it's kind of a ways off before the side quest gets activated.
Yeah, it might just be going for it on turn 8 instead, which is fair enough.
Okay, well...
What to do? What to do?
Looks like an Apprentice Cyclone turn to me. Tom is taking some time to adjust his position, so maybe it's not a pop-off turn. Trying to give himself the best shot of devolving the mana giant, I would assume.
Think so, wouldn't you?
So strange because this
It's
is
so
not
weird.
a clear, and also it's using a lot of the fuel he has for
Right.
the next turn.
Interesting. Like, both of these turns, these players were so weird. Like, che0nsu's left with
Yeah.
obviously an 8-8 on board, but very little value to show for it as a result.
Timing definitely felt unintuitive. We'll see how it plays out though.
So I guess he was gearing up for a Shenvala plus Apprentice plus Cyclone turn, all in one swing. Maybe?
I don't
Would be
know,
my
it
best
feels
bet.
too ambitious, but I would still look at the apprentice now. He has cram session. Okay, he hasn't played the apprentice, so I can only assume he's going to freeze the giant and hold off for another turn, which is reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, reasonable's the word
Wow.
here. Like, all of these plays kind of make sense from our players, but at the same time, they just kind of don't. I'm still just perplexed by what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, I can still see a line here where he just cram sessions and freezes the giant again. You're very likely to have a good pop-off on the next turn, but honestly, I would not have played the magic trick altogether that turn because I thought he was popping off.
Yeah, it's such a weird balance between
Whoa,
playing
and
your
it's
cards.
Cyclone instead of cram session? What?
Guess he wants those random
I'm so
spells.
lost. But you want to go with the apprentice, so you want stuff from your deck instead of potential expensive garbage.
I agree.
What I think.
Yeah, like potentially you can play the apprentice with cram session next turn, but at the same time, the lab partner is very likely to die on this turn.
For che0nsu, I
Wow.
like the idea of just getting the side quest done, removes the spell damage minion, and gives himself a lethal on-board setup. Tom has to go.
He has to go all
Now.
in here, but he has nothing good left to play with the apprentice.
I
Is the
know.
problem? Like, he's played every 1-mana spell.
Okay, Arcane Breath. That's cheap.
That's cost 0.
Yeah, point it at the observer, and then he can still cram session for 1, whatever, and then devolving missile. Okay, I don't know about order anymore, sorry.
Okay, testing for counterspell, sure, with the cheapest card.
Okay, freeze giant, sure. Secret, cyclone.
What did this even accomplish, though? He's still just dying.
I don't know. Oh, there's an evocation!
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Like-
I'm lost.
My estimation of this game is that I think che0nsu should have been punished for being the first player to go in. For a very low-value double evocation apprentice turn. He got the 8-8 down, absolutely, but Tom
Oh.
should have been able to utilize his apprentice turn to swing the board back. He just wasn't
I
able to
agree.
do that, though.
I agree. I'm just worried about che0nsu not testing for the Flame Ward first because he was hovering the lab partner, but good job.
Right.
Took the trade. Now you go with the Raz and lab partners.
Oh, it's so good. It's so
I would
good.
hear an argument for holding a lab partner as well for a potential cram session later if you need it.
I don't think it matters too much here, to be honest.
Okay, Tom no longer has an apprentice,
Mm-hmm.
and he's kind of just dead.
Ah, yes, the old
Okay.
lab partner that they always ignore, and then Flame Ward clears off their giant and their 3/4. Classic.
Okay, we're looking for Frost Nova.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Rolling
close.
Fireball gets rid of the 2 on the left,
Uh-huh.
and he's still kind of dead.
Oh.
He's not there.
What a weird mage mirror. Like,
Yeah.
from che0nsu's side, I think like I still kind of disagree with the timing, but to be fair to him, he got down an early giant, like he cheated out a lot of mana. Technically, all the boxes were ticked in terms of a mage gameplay. Like he got his 0 mana 8/8 down, which you can never fault a player too heavily for going for that line. for Tom's side, though, it just felt like he put up no defense whatsoever.
It was so weird. He went back and forth, at least from what I was seeing, between amassing resources for a bigger apprentice and then spending those resources to not get a good apprentice. Like, I wanted to go in as early as dropping Shenvala turn 3. I heard the argument for holding it. I mean, I completely understand. With apprentice, you can get way more value off of it. But if you are going for the hold game plan, you should be drawing towards even more cheap spells. You should be saving the cheap spells. I think it's fine to use Ray of Frost to heal for 8 here and there, but not all of the cheap spells, because then he can't do any power spike. It's just kind of wishy-washy every turn, and clearly it did not work out.
And I mean, I think the way I see it develop, I'm more coming around to your point of view and ditching my own, where I was saying, he could hold Shenvala to go with Apprentice. But with Apprentice and Cyclone in hand, just playing out the Shenvala on 3 and forcing them to react. Like, I'm with you. I think that it sat around in hand doing literally nothing the entire game, whereas it could have just been tempoed out on turn 3 instead of just ping pass. I think that was just not the way you're supposed to be playing Tempo Mage, to be honest. It was neither the tempo route, where you throw out all your minions super quickly, or the combo route, where you hold back all your spells for a massive swing turn with the Apprentice plus all your cheap spells as well. Not really the best performance. But still a chance for Tom to turn things around, as the Mage taking the win is not the biggest of deals for che0nsu. It doesn't have to face off against the Demon Hunter now, which is nice for him, but it's Mage. It can win in any matchup.
It is very true, but it is a deck that I believe requires a fair amount of practice on it to win any matchup. So honestly, I'm kind of worried for Tom. It just felt like he didn't have the clear vision on how to pilot the deck. I hate sounding this harsh because, of course, Tom is a better player than me in every regard. Basically, he is a former world champion, so it's tough to throw out criticism like this, but it just didn't feel like the Mage had a solid game plan. It's going to switch onto the Rogue for now.
Yep, and as we've been talking about, while they appear at surface level to be very similar decks, you've got to employ a very different play style. And in previous weeks, I've actually really liked what I've seen from Tom on the Secret Rogue. I think he's had a very good understanding of the balance you have to strike between tempo versus value, because this is a deck where if you play purely for tempo, just throw out all your cards as quick as possible, you'll be left with no cards in hand on turn 3 and wondering what on earth happened. So you have to get that balance right, which I think Tom has done an excellent job of thus far.
And he's got quite a nice hand for the early turns. Having the backstab to immediately answer the Sethek is huge. Yes, you don't get to play Hanar this turn, but he didn't necessarily have a secret to follow up anyway. Ray's dead.
Yeah, Ray's dead is premium here.
Now we can see Hanar 1 Thief, go Secret next turn, or Coin Jandis.
Yeah. I think this is like fairly prescriptive for Tom. For che0nsu, on the other hand, was there ever a play where you just go Raise Dead for the 1 minion to get the Sethek down on that turn instead of floating 2? Or am I going crazy?
I mean, it's a very tempo-heavy game plan with double Renew and Apotheosis in hand.
Right.
I would have heard the argument for it, but I think I still would have landed on just trying to get maximum value here, just because as a priest player, I'm used to responding after a turn where the rogue has already gotten rid of the first Sethek. Worth exploring, though.
Yeah, it's just like with the Apotheosis in hand as well, if he doesn't have like another backstab or an Eviscerate, it has many punishes, but if it sticks, it was tremendously powerful. It's probably too risky overall, given how strong his backup play was anyway.
As it stands, because che0nsu was forced to play out the Twilight Drake to have his best shot of answering the Hanar, Therapy Scales currently doesn't have an activator. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, it can get the activator now, but the main thing is Coin Freezing Trap. The nightmare for che0nsu when you have one big slow minion in the Twilight Drake. It's getting scary all of a sudden.
Yeah, Hanar is such a backbreaker this early on. And there's just not many good answers in the priest deck. Not a singular card that can deal with that.
Yeah, you're looking for Shadow Word Pain. Lazul's Scheme, I guess, can just keep cycling to try and find those answers. And Master Spell is big for the following turn.
You can hit Forbidden Words to go with the scheme we're talking.
That's true. a Thought Steal, probably, even though it's a bit slow.
Yeah, I don't think he'll ever land. Okay, the Inner Fire just lets him keep cycling, I suppose, for this
That's
turn.
true. Yep, good point.
Get the Thought Steal anyway. So, if you go Cleric of Scales here, what are you fishing for?
On wings of destruction they come.
I'm not specifically sure. I guess Holy Smite, just because it starts killing stuff. Wow, another Raise Dead.
Oh, honestly, like, he needs Pyro instead
My
of
hand
more
is too full.
spells here from where I'm sat.
Yeah.
But the 1/1 is also somewhat relevant. Sometimes it damages Hanar, and it gets the Holy Smite in range.
Yeah, I really like the choice of Jandis here. I think for Tom, you know, you can keep faffing about with generating more secrets, getting a Sethic Veil Weaver of your own down, or you can actually start trying to kill them, which is what this accomplishes.
Correct. I've been critical of a lot of rogue players for trying to milk too much value out of Hanar and not realizing that they could be pushing damage instead.
Mm.
But Tom, I think, has
consider.
very clear vision of how to approach the matchup. This is really great before the Soul Mirror turn as well.
Exactly, yeah, this is what I was saying at the start. The balance between tempo and value. You've got to keep the ticker right around the middle, I think, which is exactly what Tom knows how to do. This is what I've been most impressed by with his rogue play along the way.
So che0nsu does not know if this is Noble Sacrifice, but you can take the Gambit of Apo and the Hanar, or...
I think he actually does, because it was
Right.
played before the Hunter spell and he attacked with the Drake,
Oh, was
right? So
it?
it would have triggered.
Okay, so then I am looking at Apo and the Hanar and just end with Wave of Apathy potentially.
Mm.
That it's maybe a waste of Wave of Apathy.
Oh, I feel so bad. Like, you're giving them the res, but it silences away the effect on the minions, so now it's just 2 full 5-drops off of Jandis, which don't die once they're damaged. Doesn't feel good.
Really doesn't.
Oi, oi, oi. Yep, instantly realizing here, Tom, what is the way that I can put the most damage on board? Jandis. Shadow Step it, get it back down, force your opponent to have the answer, of which there's very limited answers in the deck at all.
And because there was a wave, Soul Mirror doesn't even clean much up other than the Sandho Father Bear. Plus Tom has this counter spell as insurance. I think he's got all the bases covered.
On wings
This
of
is more like it. Like,
destruction they
this is just
come.
clinical from Tom. There's nothing that che0nsu can do here, it feels like.
He can stall again. Shadow Word Ruin gets rid of 2 minions.
Mhm. And then you Wave of Apathy again to stop the damage? I don't know, like, you can't keep taking this damage turn after turn.
He can't. But it potentially heals him a bit more on the next turn, maybe.
And Gia, you especially can't keep taking this damage, because those Pharaoh Cats can attack face on this very turn, given charge by the Tundra Rhino. They're coming to get you.
Nothing could stop me from playing those. I want my 2 damage face.
We almost saw Guardian Animals into Pharaoh Cat in Europe. Now we can see Tundra Rhino into Pharaoh Cat in APAC. Is there no limit to what these cats can do?
Oh, they can give Wing Guardians that would also have charge.
We need to go deeper.
Oh.
Oh, boo.
Once you get through this, he needs Pyro.
Pyro would be a big start. You know, if you can get Cabal Acolyte, maybe to steal something big. I don't know if that can get there. Currently,
Or
it's all
more
just
stall.
way too slow. He's just dead.
If he had a Radiance to go with the Wave of Apathy or even Renew, I would hear the argument for just stall again, try to get the Pyro as your top deck to come back on board, but it's not there.
So Wave of Apathy, that's 7 damage on board. Heals up to 12.
Okay. Yeah, with the weapon, 7.
Which means that's 11 damage with the Eviscerate. And Gia, the lethal comes through from Pharaoh Cat with
Let's do
charge. This is lethal right now.
It is. That's lethal too.
That's the way less interesting way to give lethal here, Tom. Please give us what we want.
One time.
No!
No!
I hate to break it to you, Tom. You've won the game. You're closer to going through to Sunday to the semi-finals, but you just missed out on a top 5 play. The real heartbreaker right here. You could have got in there with Pharaoh Cat lethal off of the charge from Tundra Rhino, but I guess we'll settle for just winning the game in any old way.
Fine. I wanted the Pharaoh Cat lethal. I have never seen that ever. But
Yeah,
it would have been quite a marvel. It's alright though. Tom played the early game pretty much perfectly. He had the clear plan of just trying to disrupt any minion presence from che0nsu with the freezing traps, and when the time came for Tom to put the pressure on, he played the Jandis, stepped it, got the lethal. Very clinical.
Yeah, I think the one thing for me from che0nsu that we can explore is actually, again, the Raise Dead on 2. And I'm trying not to be results-oriented here because I think I would have done the same thing as him there. It was a very, very difficult read to go for the Sethic Veilweaver on 3 with a much less value line overall. But to be fair, it would have forced Tom off of playing the Hanar because otherwise you just go Apotheosis, value trade, you're ahead on board, you're leading into generating a whole bunch of value. It would have been a very, very different game because Hanar probably would have been forced off and Eviscerate would have come down instead. I'm not saying it's correct, but I think that was maybe the line that actually in that instance gave him a chance.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. In that instance, it seemed extremely strong. We were seeing in top 5 plays last time that just the 1/1 cleric of scales forced Saiyan off of getting secrets from Hanar just to make sure that it wouldn't be dead to Holy Smite, and that was the key to that game. So early tempo is definitely something to be explored. I was making the argument that you would want more value in most of the other instances where maybe the rogue doesn't even play Hanar there, but for sure it's worth talking about.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think I wouldn't have done that. Even if I could have like seen both hands, I still probably wouldn't have done it. So I'm not faulting che0nsu here at all. It's just interesting to think how different plays can have affected things, even if it's very difficult to see the future. One game apiece now with the Rogue and the Mage having got a win for Tom and che0nsu respectively. For che0nsu on the 2 of Galakrond Priest without Galakrond, I guess Control Priest would be the closest name we could go for it, or just Priest. Do you think that's going to be in a good spot against the Mage and the Demon Hunter? It's looked definitely better than the Highlander Priest, at least so far today.
Against Mage, I've tended to see this as a Mage favored matchup, whether it was Highlander or the 2 of Priest, because I think Mage can put together enough value after the first couple waves that the Priest can't necessarily answer everything, plus they can bank the burst in hand. But up against Demon Hunter, I do like Priest's chances, especially the more I've watched very experienced Priest players navigate endgame situations.
Well, a respectable start here for Tom, where he can just curve out right from the get-go. che0nsu really does not have the kind of hand you're looking for, because again, as I've been saying time and again, sounding like a broken record at this point, I'm sure, I want to see Sethic Veilweaver, Wandmaker, Kaj, Raise Dead. Sethic Veilweaver is a big deal to find to try and start fighting for some tempo, and I do probably agree with saving it for this turn as well to combo it with the Holy Smite.
Well, it's interesting. It could have been played with Coin Holy Smite last turn, but if Tom had just taken a turn to remove it, you're pretty sad because your follow-up is Pyromancer. Pretty tough for che0nsu now, though, that Tom put Firebrand to follow up the curve instead of drawing, so the Sethic becomes even more difficult to navigate.
Obviously, if this was an Apprentice turn, it would be extremely easy for Tom here and just popping off and getting a bigger Mana Cyclone generation, but is taking 2 spells and getting a 2/2 on the board good enough here?
I mean, my question was, does he want to give up the spell burst on the Firebrand? And he says no. I think I would have landed on still giving it up and maybe just going learn Draconic Primordial Studies instead, and then I would decide based on what comes off the studies whether you play the mana cycle. But he is really valuing the spell burst at least last turn.
This is full greed from both our players. Like, che0nsu had the board clear on that turn with Pyro, Coin. He can even go Sethic into Holy Smite in order to clear the board and generate a card. But he's full greeding it and is definitely shifting the game plan from a tempo one to a control one, which, to be fair, is what his hand is making him play right now.
It's true. He has the Pyro Apple combo, so he can come back from pretty much any board state. He has Holy Smite as well, so he can deal with small minions with one Firebrand-sized minion. For Tom, I think it's perfectly reasonable to go for the Cyclone on this turn, get the value while you can, because his hand did not give him Cram Session.
Alright, this is what we've been gearing up for. It's not the Pyro Sethic, it's the Pyro Apo to heal all the way back up, clear the board, and stick a big juicy minion on the board while you're at it.
And for Tom, I don't think he can be too upset about this. The fact that he got che0nsu down to 18 with just whatever minions he could throw together is pretty much a bonus for Mage. But the upsetting thing is he has not gotten card draw. Responsive power, though.
Yeah, there's fonts and there's also Potion of Illusion, which, to be fair, if your opponent is playing really slow and not trying to lock down the board, and you have the mana to spend on non-reactive plays, non-tempo plays, just Astromancer plus Potion is an incredibly powerful play. Simply getting another Solarian Prime in your deck is a big deal.
I'd hesitate to call it powerful. It's extremely slow, is the thing.
Right, but that's fine.
Okay, another Prime in the deck does sound good, but it's indefinite the point when he is going to draw it. I feel like Tom's priority should be at finding ways to cycle through his deck, so I'd like starting with Bond of Power on the off chance you maybe discover like Cyclone or anything that can generate more spells. Cycle.
Fair enough, fair enough.
A simple spell.
Nice top deck, though, in the Renew. It means that in a turn or two's time, definitely going to be a big pop-off for che0nsu with the Sethic to try and get some value and clear the board.
Avalanche Elemental, though, is pretty poppin'.
Yeah, it's unactivated, so it's just a worse War Golem here, but, you know. Save for later, not terrible.
Yep.
Whoa!
Okay,
Okay,
this
that's
is
powerful.
the potion turn.
This is powerful.
Yes. I mean, it's a lot of value, for real, but it still feels like it needs some card draw to really unlock all of the potential. For now, it's just giving Tom stuff to do for the next couple of turns.
Gee, it's 4 Solarian Primes. What more do you want from a Mage game, Warai?
If you could put them all at the top of the deck, sign me up.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is Tom and not Blitzchung, so he doesn't quite have those powers, I don't think.
And to be fair, che0nsu just currently does not have a guaranteed Pyro to deal with this. He's very likely to get it from Raised Dead, though.
Well, the interesting thing is he kind of wants to find... Like, if he could guarantee himself a Shadow Madness with Sethic into Renew, you might start with that, right? Because then you can just steal one of the Primes and still kill off the Apprentice.
But that's nowhere near guaranteed.
Obviously, no, but it's, you know, you could start with that just because there's a chance you can do it.
So is it a Pyro and Sethic turn? Because he kind of has to death the... Okay, this way saves the death.
Ooh. Mind Games will have shuffled in a couple of, like, 3 Primes at that point, which is just a 4 mana 7/7.
You're not wrong.
I'm not right, apparently, but I'm not wrong.
Like, I definitely took your point about the... Oh, wait. Okay, I thought the Pyro didn't reborn for a second. I was really scared. Yeah.
Just animation.
Oh, he missed
times.
hero power, though. It was a tough turn, and I definitely took your point about Sethek because if you were gonna go for the Pyro turn, it means you miss out on a lot of the Sethek potential for the next turn.
Yeah,
But then
I
if you
think
start with Sethek, you don't necessarily have the mana flexibility to do everything he wanted.
exactly. Only 2 mana available to go with the Pyro is, you know, you're not likely to be able to clear everything off there. So I definitely don't begrudge che0nsu for going for this line.
Okay. Well, here is the train now.
Probably Holy Smite, because you can then just fit in the Spectral alongside it.
True. Even hero power.
Oh, I knew it'd be Shadow Madness.
After like the 4th spell. Okay,
Tome.
well, we have arrived at the point that I was concerned about, which is Tom did a lot of things that were powerful on the board, but after they get cleared, the lack of cycle is a very big problem. He does, however, have very powerful top decks because of all the primes.
So what? He has 4 primes in the deck. Over a 1/6 of his deck is Solarian primes right now, which means he's fairly likely to find one before he dies. Like, che0nsu is not really doing much of anything to actually kill him, especially if the Sethek is killed off here. I agree. You know, it's obviously not ideal for Tom. At this point, if it was ideal, you'd have won the game. But this is fine. He did what he accomplished to do.
No, you're absolutely right. This is only truly scary for Tom if che0nsu manages to put some pressure on the board, but his deck just doesn't do that outside of Murison, and it's not been in the hand for quite some time.
Dude, che0nsu is just a Sethek apprentice gamer. He gets this every time in Priest.
Oh yes. But he's only targeting... Okay, before this renewed top deck, the only targeting spell was Penance, but my goodness, was this the draw to give che0nsu something proactive? Embalming?
You can target that on something, right?
I thought it would go in the Sethek, but okay. Mind games? Take the Prime, I guess? Try to get the Prime. It is the most likely outcome at the moment.
Oh!
Okay.
Get your heart out, Tom.
che0nsu did proactive stuff. Now Tom is worried.
Ooh.
There's like no spells.
Yeah, he can only get literally 2 activations maximum here. Because of the Sethek on board, you probably don't even want to play Shenvala. It's just freeze pass? Is that insane?
It's not insane, but I feel like Tom's only game plan is just relying on top decks at the moment, of which
well, yeah.
the 4 primes, the evocation, and maybe Raz to an extent are quite good.
Yeah, Raz would be powerful with the spell damage for sure.
So,
I just think that, like, when they have the Sethek in play, if you're not killing it, it's kind of just actively bad to develop minions, because you're just going to give them stuff to target their reactive spells onto.
My thinking is that because evocation is one of your top deck outs, I probably would end up dumping the Shenvala just to make room for the next turn to be really powerful. But I take your point. There are spells that the Sethek would rather target on opposing minions compared to friendly minions.
Man, che0nsu's just going. Hits the Psyche split as well.
Hello.
Disgusting.
Yeah, you just penance your own guy here. Infinite value train. Infinite value train. Take some primes.
Yeah.
Hello.
He's pretty likely to get a Solarian Prime here.
4 out of 20. 20% chance.
Of course it is. That's the point that we're at in this game. Oh, Gift of Luminance! He can go for the triple Sethek play, or even just Apprentice for even bigger discount.
He didn't even overdraw at the end. Oh my gosh, Tom's just dead.
He just concedes! Oh!
He was pretty much done on board. che0nsu is having the time of his life. Look at this man.
che0nsu is just straight vibing right now. He does not give a toss about anything else that's going on. He's just having fun playing some Hearthstone right now. He's just beating up on a former world champ.
I could tell you that was definitely fun for one person there.
My
Right,
man.
so, I mean, it's a game worth discussing, right? Because it was such a weird pan out. Tom had a good curve in the opener. He had Firebrand and good minion presence, but che0nsu deliberately chose to not play for tempo. He didn't go with the early Sethic. He just saved the Pyro Apo for a big swing on the board, which, you know, as Mage, I think it's fair to expect that that happens at some point. But the big concern was that Tom didn't have card draw to follow up. He had a decent Cyclone turn, but it didn't give him the powerhouse cards like Power of Creation. It didn't give him even side quests to maybe get cycle going. A single Arcane Intellect or Cram Session could have changed everything there because, as we were talking about, Tom's deck was incredibly stacked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think back because, to be honest, I don't think I really majorly disagreed with anything Tom did in that game. I think he wasn't really given the cards he needed to cycle through his deck. He played for as much value as possible by greeding out the Potion of Illusion a little bit longer than I was advocating for, which was, on average, I think, very powerful. He didn't get the card draw. If he'd got Cram Session at any point, it would have been insane. Solarian Prime would have been insane. Evocation would have been insane. He just drew dead, and it happens sometimes.
I mean, there might have been very small things he could have done to try and look harder for cycle spells, maybe read out the Cyclone a bit longer, but I agree, it's tough to find those spots, and towards the end there, I would have relied on just trying to find cycle off the top of my deck. I just want to kind of gloat here because you were so excited about the potion, but it didn't do much in the end because he never drew the primes.
I've already suffered enough, all right? I had to watch a man generate 4 primes and then not play a single one of them, all right? But I'll
che0nsu got a prime.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take my solace in the fact that che0nsu was able to prime and have a blooming good time doing it as well. As I just love to watch the players have fun. Like, sometimes they get these stupid games where che0nsu fully appreciated how ridiculous that was, where he just got the absolute dream. He was just playing his own game of solitaire at that point, and Tom wasn't even allowed to sit down at the table. But I do think now, with the Demon Hunter mirror, che0nsu on the verge of going through to the semi-finals. I don't think he, out of anyone, would have expected him to be in this position, given he started the round robin at 0-4 before he got a single win on the table. But it could all be forgotten now, as he could beat the former world champ and go through to the semi-finals.
It would be an incredible turnaround, and he's got a pretty good opening hand to do so with, because the curve is just there. Chaos Strike next turn into Mana Feeder cycle, into even more Mana Feeder cycle. Oh, he's River Crocking, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Been a while since I've seen this.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to clear out cards in his hand, I think, to get, to some extent, consume magic out the left side of his hand. The bigger thing is just he wants to curve out and deal some damage here. He hadn't seen a shuffler by that point, right? So he didn't necessarily know that there was going to be Shard Shatter available.
True. I don't know. I mean, if he had the 4-5 type hand, which curved out and just never let the minion pressure stop, I would be more on board for it. But to be fair, the 2-3 body is going to be somewhat annoying if there's not a Shard Shatter Mystic.
Which there is. I think che0nsu probably still does just end up pushing this face. On this turn, he's now got the Horde Pillager, so going for Marrow Slicer is pretty much mandatory. It's just whether you want to trade, which I just don't think it's quite worth it yet.
Yeah, the trade is very ugly. It's an overcommittal of damage, and just the fact that he started with Mana Feeder on the board for no draw kind of shows you where che0nsu's head is at, which is maximum damage, give them as little time as possible to find their Eldrazi Warblades. But I think Tommen is in a very reasonable position here. And he has this ooze that he kept to get rid of the Marrow Slicer.
Obviously, he knows that there is Horde Pillager available in the deck. I still don't think that's going to sway Tom to the point where he goes for Soul Shard on this turn, because it doesn't lead up to a strong Glavebound, and literally just hero power could be used to take it out at that point. Okay, it seems alright though. It sets up the Gladebound next turn as well.
Okay. Re-equipping the Eldraki is a very, very powerful thing to do with both of the 5-drops available to him next turn, so he can choose at his leisure which one is better, and getting the 7 heal with Lapidary is super backbreaking in this matchup. Tom is 100% winning the resource battle here.
Currently, yes, it does look that way, doesn't it? He gets a lot of healing in as well, which is a big deal here, of course. I like that he's going with the Lapidary, instead of the Gladebound on this turn. But che0nsu, you know, his hand isn't dead. He's got Chaos Strike in to consume magic if he wants to keep cycling on this turn. He's doing some powerful stuff.
Crucially, he's also got Militia, which currently there's 3 soul fragments in che0nsu's deck. And he has seen a Shard Shatter, so it's more likely to get something done. But the problem is, this turn itself. Like, he could very well just die if he doesn't heal here. That's why he is overwriting this Marrow Slicer with the Eldraki Warblades. And when you put the opposing Demon Hunter in this position in the mirror, you know that you're in a good spot.
Yeah, I absolutely love this spot from che0nsu. I think that given that he is very likely to just be going for Lapidary next turn, if he wants to get the heal off that, he has to pre-equip the Warblades here, which is exactly what he does. It's a sacrifice to lose the 4 damage, but a worthy one in my opinion.
I grow impatient.
And the turn for Tom is looking like Hero Power Glavebound Adept to me. It's a little bit awkward because the skull won't be on the far left next turn, but it's still pretty reasonable to follow up with Marrow Slicer, Hero Power Panthera into skull.
And I'm sensing it, Gia. It's going to be one of those back and forth games with a big heal turn available here for che0nsu as well, if he wants to take it. But instead, he's just going with the Militia to clear.
I mean, it's kind of like the heal immediately gets neutered if you have to face tank the Glavebound, so he's just hoping he survives this turn into a big heal next turn. I think it's reasonable, but it could mean sometimes that Tom just wins the game on the spot with a single Twin Slice.
Twin Slice is what we're looking for to end the game,
there
and
it is.
Twin Slice is what he gets. I can respect che0nsu for taking the turn where you just pray you don't die there, as unlikely as it was to work out. It means we're going to game 4.
That was lightning fast.
Yeah, that's kind of how Demon...
the power of Eldraki Warblades when you get to land the Soul Shard Lapidary with it.
Yeah, it was, I think, very nicely done by Tom there. For che0nsu, it was very, very difficult for him to try and set up that 2-turn punch where you can equip the Warblades and then go for Lapidary and clear the board. The mana just didn't quite work out. And I think that's in no small part because Tom made it very, very awkward for him at all points along the way. I think he positioned his threats very, very well over the course of that game.
Yeah, the Ooze was no laughing matter as well. It put together a board state where if che0nsu didn't have Shatter Shard Mystic, then it would, in most situations, turn into a damage race where Tom had the hand to support that alongside the pre-equipped Eldraki Warblades. Very, very big deal in the matchup, and it means that che0nsu is not having the whole series handed to him, at least.
He's not, but he does now have a decent matchup to be taking the win with. I don't think he was devastated having taken the loss there, even though it was pretty convincing towards the end from Tom, because he has the Demon Hunter against the Mage now. A notoriously good matchup for the Demon Hunter, because if che0nsu plays it anything like he did there, where he just points everything towards the dome, he will win this game of Hearthstone, because there is not the same kind of healing that Mage has access to. That is, of course, unless Tom can get off to an even more ridiculous, explosive start than the Demon Hunter can. But, you know, to be honest, based on what we've seen from Tom today, it's been a shaky performance on the Tempo Mage thus far, and he's going to have to be playing at the absolute peak of his ability if he wants to take on this bad matchup.
That's right. The 2 losses that he's taken so far were with the Tempo Mage, and of the other 2 decks, I definitely feel like Tom had a much stronger understanding of them. To be fair, though, the Tempo Mage mirror kind of deviates from the way you want to play Mage normally, because as you're talking about, it can be more powerful to do the pop-off in response to something, so it makes it difficult to manage your hand space and know the timing of when to go onto the board. But against Demon Hunter, I think it's a lot more straightforward. Just try not to walk too hard into the Shatter Shard Mystics and try and generate Frostbolts when you can.
Indeed. Taking a look once again at Tom's particular list, we can see, of course, he's not going with the Dragon package. He does have the Conjurer's Calling in there, which, in combination with the Giants, in my opinion, is a premium way to try and lock down the board. Primordial Studies, I love as a keep in the starting hand to start finding those early minions. AI is a little more contentious, though.
Definitely. It's somewhat slow against Demon Hunter, but again, it gives Tom more resources when he's off the coin. It can sometimes feel like you have nothing to do in the mid game, so the card draw is definitely not the worst. For che0nsu, it ends up being a full toss there. I was thinking Marrow Slicer was the most reasonable as a keep, but it still is probably worse than all of the early minions that you're looking for, like the Spirit Jailer, Panthera, and Wonder.
Kind of an interesting choice there for Tom, because obviously Kobold is the obvious first pick, but in this matchup, going for the Taunt is pretty valuable, I would say, to just be throwing down in the later stages of the game.
It's fair, but I was definitely concerned about this upcoming turn for Tom had he not taken the cheapest minion, so still like the Kobold pick.
That's fair.
And I wouldn't mind just seeing it come down this turn with Primordial Studies afterward, and you're very likely to get at least the 2-card draw Cram Session next turn, and sometimes you get lucky, hit the 3-card draw.
Yep, Mana Reservoir, snap pick there. I can definitely agree with it in this instance, just to give yourself a guaranteed 2-card draw on the following turn if they clear the Kobold. Or not.
He's using the more clunky card draw because I suppose the Mana Reservoir doesn't really do anything on board, doesn't challenge anything from che0nsu.
Right.
So the Cram Session could be better or worse later on.
That looks like che0nsu might be having a slight connectivity issue there, which hopefully just looked like it sorted itself out. It does look like he was able to get in everything he wanted to do on the turn, so hopefully no problems arise there.
Tempoing out the lab partner is an interesting prospect, because it definitely feels like Raz will be the follow-up next turn, so I just want max spell damage on the board.
Yeah, agreed. You know, if it's Raz next turn, it's obviously fantastic. If it's not Raz next turn, you're going for Apprentice plus Giant, probably. And so there's no real reason to hold it, because either way, you're not going to have the mana to play it.
Right, and if the lab partner gets cleared here, it's most likely with the Mana Feeder taking a trade onto it, so it would end up at 2 health, whereas Raz with the Mana Reservoir would still clear the board if it doesn't get silenced. This is a very disciplined silence from che0nsu.
It really is. Like, there was just the play of Soul Shear on that turn instead, which still cleared off 1 spell damage and pushed the rest face, but he's, I mean, like you said, all in on clearing off that spell damage, but not that it's gonna matter, because Tom gets the dream card there in the Mana Cyclone.
I was gonna say, it was a huge deal there for che0nsu to stay ahead on board, but like you said, dream top deck for Tom. He really does like repositioning himself in his chair whenever he goes for the Apprentice turn.
I mean, that was a tough choice. He just passed up a Frostbolt against Demon Hunter, and I think it was correct, because this side quest here is absolutely insane.
I agree. It keeps his resources going. I mean, he's put himself in a position as Tempo Mage where he's not even the defender. He is being the aggressor here. Mana Giant, Conjurer's Calling coming up very, very soon. And this is a spot where you don't even necessarily need crossbow to close out the game. You just want the resources to keep coming.
Finally, che0nsu gets a foothold on the board, though. He's getting some damage to face. I do wonder, though, Gia, if it's going to be too late. Tom is inching closer and closer to this insane Giant plus Conjurer's Calling turn.
Truly is. It's just unfortunate that it can't happen this turn, but he does want to play the Giant, of course, because of the side quest. So I don't mind Nova on a single target here, and just have your Giant be pretty likely to stick.
I'm on board.
But there is, of course, a chance that he draws a Ray of Frost or something to generate it, so he's not ripping the Nova just yet. Evolving Missiles.
Yeah, it leaves him with 1 less mana, but I think I'm okay with that, because given that he drew Apprentice there, he knew he wouldn't be starved for mana next turn anyway.
Yeah. Reasonable to start with Giant for flexibility. Okay, Skull off the top is a big deal for che0nsu here because the hand just did not synergize well. He didn't have a great way to put together Blade Dance.
Yeah, I mean, he had the clear with Second Slice, Chaos Strike, Blade Dance, and Attack, but I think I would much rather make them play the Conjurer's Calling, then react afterwards to clear it off.
This gives che0nsu the potential to clear the board and remain ahead after the end of the turn, whereas the clear would have just forced him onto Skull the next turn.
This is very powerful stuff we're seeing from Tom now. Ice Barrier being generated, Conjurer's Calling as well. This is getting ludicrous.
Raku! Just the cherry on top, I suppose. That's really hard to Blade Dance away.
It is, but che0nsu has one mammoth Blade Dance available now. He can trade in the 2/2 into the Apprentice, so there's 3 minions on board. Marrow Slicer plus the Soul Shard is 9. He can then get up to 11, 12 with the hero power. It's there.
Yeah, it is. That's a clear. That is exactly what che0nsu needed.
There's counter
Think about
spell.
secrets though. Yeah, he's got to be aware of counter spell too. I'm gonna start with the shear, right?
Okay.
Because if this does go off, I think he still has the clear. Right. With Lapidary and Blade Dance, super clean. He had all his bases covered.
Yeah, there's the 100% clear now. There's nothing wrong with attacking face with the weapon as well, because even if it's Ice Barrier, you still get the full damage in. This looks very clean to me.
Do an Apprentice, dance away. Huh?
Whoa. Okay.
Okay. Whew, I was scared. You're the Saraku, and then you go. Perfectly sequenced from che0nsu. A complex turn, factoring in that he did not know what the secret was, but super well spotted.
Yeah, I really like the Soul Shear added on there as well. That was just the perfect flourish to finish out the turn very nicely. And that is exactly what needed to happen, because Tom was looking to be in a good spot there. And even though he now gets a couple of good options with taunts available on the Warden or the Hogger, I'm thinking che0nsu is getting into a nice spot now. He's got another Skull. He's got plenty of damage coming through. No immediate answer to the Lapidary unless he wants to go Gyrocopters.
No way. I think the Warden looks pretty good here because he's just seen a Blade Dance. But, ooh, spicy top deck. Maybe it doesn't line up all that well. But there is a reasonable play of just like Militia and call it a day. Like, make them answer
just
this.
Pass. Oh, I
It's
think
scary though. There's
yeah. Like, you can just attack in with the damage. Like, it feels bad, obviously, to sink the damage into this 4/7 instead of attacking face, but you can get some nice value trades with the 4/5 as well. Like, you just end up with a decent board presence. With the 5, sorry.
Right. There's no way to let the Lapidary go face here, even if you commit the Twin Slice.
Yeah.
So, I assume he would just keep one of his 3/3s alive.
I mean, I think the only thing I might have done differently, honestly, was just play Philosophy instead of Hero Power, because it's just whether you think Philosophy is better as a card in your hand or just delete it from your hand. And I think at this point, I'd rather just delete it from my hand for the purposes of outcasting the Skull, potentially from the left side.
Fair. Oh my gosh, this draw from Tom, though. Ay.
It was looking big,
whips.
but that is a massive whiff. Blizzard no longer even castable right now. It was turning around for Tom a couple of turns ago, but this is not good enough.
Now you just play the Raz, I guess. Try to remove the Lapidary, but there's 8 on the other side. To be fair, Tom is threatening counter-lethal.
Fair. That's 8, 12, 14, 16, 17, I think, at the moment.
Because it's not guaranteed, I'm perfectly happy as che0nsu to send these face, go for a double Shatter Shard clear, and probably commit Chaos Strike as well, so that happens first. It hurts to miss the Marrow Slicer, but it's too scary to leave this damage up, right?
Yes, I think I agree. Unless you want to search for the second Blade Dance, which seems too risky because you might draw a Soul Fragment along the way, of which this is the last one now, I believe. Oh no, sorry, maybe one more in there. But yeah, it's just
So this-
too risky.
Yeah, that was the correct order. Chaos Strike afterward to not draw any fragments.
Mm-hmm.
Power?
I mean, I think I'm happy with going second slice here, just because it's more mana to use with Skull from the left-hand side next turn.
Fair.
This is kind of what I was talking about with Philosophy, because it's now literally just a card you have to spend mana on subsequent turns here.
You don't pick the one.
Is so close, but so far. Jandis needs to generate some taunts. Did ever cram session first? I mean, he's used the giants, so I feel like Jandis is his best defense and also his best offense at the moment.
What to do?
Can go Font of Power, Jandis, Spellwing. If you find like a Solarian Prime off of, Astromancer Solarian off of
Right.
Font, I guess you would play that over the Spellwing, so you start with Font.
What to do?
Yeah, I mean, he's thinking about Spell Burst effect as well on 5.
True.
I'm trying to think what they could be. It's like Headmaster that's the big one. Rush is big, though.
a big deal.
Yeah. Okay, Apprentice, that could be big. It's not over.
You get the extra one, but it's not good.
Yeah. I take it all back. It was strictly superior for che0nsu to go about it this way.
Warblades is big. Lapidary is big. That's big healing.
Okay, so he can shuffle in.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So he gets 7 damage, 7 healing. It's not lethal, but you go up to 23. They are showing 16 plus arcane missiles. It's so scary.
Oh, it's so scary!
No choice, though. This damage can't go anywhere else than the face.
Such a beautiful shield.
These are beefy minions you can put in the way of missiles. You ever just drop the mana feeder as well? Oh my gosh.
Oh my god!
Tom has to have this. Almost certainly. Oh, che0nsu is... Poor che0nsu. Apexis Blast ×2. That's lethal, right?
Is that just lethal?
16?
7, 16, 10. That's just game.
Double Apexis Blast. My goodness. Huh?
Wait!
No! Is this guaranteed too? I don't know. Did he find some way with this?
He must be looking at some alternate way.
Ah!
That was lethal, right? It just was. It just was.
It was.
Are there any outs now for che0nsu? He has to hit like Refa off of Demon Companion, right?
Yeah,
to get the lethal now.
Yeah, that's the out. Tom didn't spend the mana on Ice Barrier. But he cannot attack, so Glavebound Adept is not an out. Oh my gosh, I didn't miscount, did I? It was lethal.
No. It was lethal.
Oh my goodness. Wand Maker, one shot. Kane, that's
Kane! Oh my god!
That's the other out. Oh my god. Tom had that! But then he didn't!
I'm in shock here. I need confirmation. That was lethal, right? That Tom just threw away. I'm not going insane here. Oh my god, che0nsu, you absolute lucky son of a gun. Well, I mean, we can say lucky. His opponent played worse than him. That's how competition works. It's just who plays better in the series. And Tom, on the Mage, consistently was just missing the right play. That was just not up to scratch from Tom.
I'm really sad about it because up until that turn, I think Tom played super well. I was so prepared to take back everything that I said about Tom in the Mage mirror. But right at the end there was 8 damage in hand after the Apprentice Evocation and 10 damage in hand, and the 2 Apexis Blasts cost only 8 because of the Apprentice on board. I do believe that was lethal and very possibly costing Tom a ticket to semifinals as he now falls to the lower half of the bracket.
He does indeed.